Today I'd like to just have you see if you want to follow us along on how I start my seeds. And by no means is this the way of starting seeds. This is my way of starting seeds. This is how I do it. If you guys are curious, I have a couple of these Rubbermaid totes. You guys are familiar with these Rubbermaid totes. I have two of these. One of them has cocoa coir in it, and one of them has seed starting material in it. When it comes to seed starting material, it's almost as much as it's kind of a debate on what people use or what they use for their seed starting material. I just use what's available to me. In my area, I can't get a lot of the name brand stuff you see on other popular YouTube channels maybe. What I can get here that's readily available to me is either a greenhouse mix from a greenhouse here locally in town, or I can get a national mix is what I call. I use Pro Mix. I'm not sponsored by Pro Mix or anything like that, not affiliated with them at all. The only reason why I use their product, you can see I've got 4 bales of it in the background, is because that is something I can readily get at my local home improvement store. So I use that route. Yes, it does have some sticks in it and stuff because I think some of this is made with like tree bark and stuff, or shredded up tree bark. You just kind of, it's a little stick like that. There's some bigger pieces in here. To me, it's worth it. I just fight through it. And yes, I could probably make a screen and sift all this stuff out. I wanted to get started. I had to get started for the seeds this year, so I didn't have time. Plus, it's just too darn cold to be outside sifting seed starting mix. So I'm just going to pick them out as I go. What I'm going to start today is some cold tolerant stuff. We've got a couple things to start that I liked that we grew last year. One of it is going to be Lacinato Kale. I love this dinosaur kale. Our customers seem to really like this. It's very cold hardy, frost hardy. Plus it just looks good growing in the garden. So we're going to start half a tray of it, or we may start a tray of it. Blue curly kale is another one. There's just a picture of it. I've already opened that package and I've used it in the fall, so I got it taped over. But blue curly kale seems the one that we sell a lot of. So we're going to start on those 2 types of kale. I've done a couple bok choys and tot soys in the past, and I love the taste of them. Me with an Asian descent, we eat a lot of this stuff in our soups and our Asian dishes. It's kind of hard to sell here in Kansas, and that goes with our plan we talked about, and we'll talk about that a little as we go. If you're going to do this for profit, you've got to sell stuff you can sell. I can grow some beautiful bok choy, some beautiful pak choy, but I can't give it away. That's the thing. Nobody knows what to do with it. Even though it's just a cabbage, nobody knows what to do with it, so they're afraid to try it or afraid to buy it. Now, I have gotten a couple people to buy it, and they love it. But a lot of people are afraid of it. They just want their standard lettuce or their standard cabbage head, and which I understand completely. We'll probably grow some of these for us. So there's going to be a couple Purple Lady bok choy. There's a Nagasaki. And then there is just your standard tot soy that I'm going to grow just for us. So I'll probably start a tray of that and probably put half a dozen of each in just for me and my family to enjoy. But we are going to get some kale started today. You can see that I try to keep everything organized on a rack. And that's going to be the key going forward to you guys' success, is keep organized. Now, not everybody has to have racks. Not everybody can afford racks, and I completely understand that. These racks were less than $40 at a home improvement center. I didn't get them on sale or anything. That's the everyday cost, so that's why I use these instead of those wire racks, because they're about double the money. And these things work really good, hold a lot of weight. I like to keep all my trays on this rack, so they're very organized. Then when I need a tray, I can grab it. That's part of that lean manufacturing we've been kind of talking about over and over again, is you want to make sure you keep everything where you can grab it. There's no sense in having these trays, some of them downstairs, some of them in the high tunnel, some of them over there, and you got to walk around trying to find what you need. I can come to one central location, grab my trays, sit down at my seed starting table. My mix is in totes under my table. Then I can start them right here. Turn a podcast in the background, a little bit of a radio, and I've got an afternoon of just chilling out, planting seeds. There's nothing better than planting seeds for therapy. I've got my seed starting trays. You guys know I use all my seed starting trays, and everything comes from Bootstrap Farmer. I love the quality of this product, love the quality of the tray, second to none. There are other trays out there, yes, and I know that. I choose to use this company because they've got great customer service and their trays hold up year after year after year. This is the 3rd year I've used these trays, and you can see literally no damage to none of them. I love these things. I've got the, looks like I've got the 200s left, and I got one 128 cell. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the kale in this 128 cell, and by no means does that mean that I'm going to use 70 kale plants in my market garden. I'll probably use half of that, the best ones for my market. And then whatever's left, I'll either give away to friends and family, and then they can start their own kale plants in their backyard if they want to. In this packet, I want to try to use up my seeds every year if I can. This is held over from last fall, so they're only about 4 months old. So I'm going to use them going into the spring here. So let's get this tray filled with soil. Like I said, everybody's got different seed starting mix styles. Basically, all I'm doing here is just throwing some seed starting material in a tray. There are plenty of videos out there on how to do this, what to use, anything like that. I'm kind of going to give you the brief overview of what I do here. I don't wet this down. A lot of people will wet this down first, and then they'll put it in their trays, and then they'll seed, and then they'll put it over the top and water it in. I've done it both ways, and I seem to like this way better. The reason why I like this way better is because it's a lot cleaner. In here in my room where I have my seed starting room and where I do a lot of my my vegetable stuff during the season, I like to keep this room as clean as possible. I try to keep the floor as clean as possible. Yes, I am starting seeds in here, but this isn't nothing that I can't take a broom and just wipe the concrete out the door or put it in the trash. And I've got a water system, which you guys will see here in the future, that I could wash this floor down the drain also and clean this up. This is what I noticed about those sticks. That's the disadvantage of using Pro Mix. I love this stuff, but the disadvantages is you get a couple little sticks here and there, but you know, it's no big deal to me. I just take them out. You saw me just dibble the surface. What I usually do if I've got more than these trays, I'll take another tray of the same quantity and I'll use that to dibble down. But since I'm using the last 108 tray, I don't have another tray for that. So start out with some Lacinato, and what I'll do is I'll split my tray in half. I'll use half my tray will be Lacinato, the other half will be blue curly kale. The reason why I've kind of narrowed it down, there's a lot of excuse me, there's a lot of kale on the market, and the reason why I kind of narrowed it down to these two types of kale is because our customers like it and they're easy to grow. Lacinato kale and the typical blue curly kale, which you see a lot of, are very well known. So customers tend to already know what that product is going into your market garden. You don't really have to sell them a lot on it because they're already familiar with that kale, because either A, they've seen it grown on TV shows or other YouTube channels, or B, they've already purchased some from the store. So especially your higher end health stores will have a lot of Lacinato kale. Dinosaur kale is very well known for smoothies. It's the kale, my understanding, it's the kale that gives you that bright green color in smoothies. So a lot of places will like the Lacinato, and that's a good selling point too. If you've got in your area, if you could sell to a gym or a shake place that does shakes possibly, and they're looking for farm fresh organic kale for their smoothies, it's a selling point for them that they're going organic and going organic style, and they're also using local. Around here anyway, everybody loves to eat local. I'm sure in your area it's a big term that gets thrown around a lot, eat local. A lot of restaurants and farm to table restaurants like that kind of stuff. So let me grab some tape real quick. Some people will use those little plastic cards that they stick in here and let you know what's on there, and those work great. In my scale, and I've used them before, in my scale, they don't work out very well. And the reasoning behind that is sometimes they don't stick underneath the domes very well, and it's just more plastic to use. And I know this is tape, but tape's easy for me to make mistakes and then and then correct them on the tape. So what I'll do is I will just take this. Let me write this on here. That way, when I water this, you'll be able to tell when kale grows out which one's the blue curly and which one's the Lacinato. But I like to put the tape on the bottom of the tray, the watering trays here. And then when I put my tray in, I know this side is Lacinato, this side is blue curly. And I may do that with other objects also. And I just usually know in my head this is the same system I use every time. And so I know, okay, these two, these two, these two, these two, 2, 4, 6, 8, that kind of thing like that. But yeah, it's just as simple as that. I mean, I know this may be redundant to some of you, and hopefully there are some new viewers here watching this and first time getting into gardening this year and want to start their own seeds. It's pretty much just as simple as that. You know, get you some seed starting trays, get you some good soil. And speaking of soil, a lot of people will ask me, hey, can I just use some topsoil out of my yard to start my plants? Hey, can I use some compost to start my plants? And by all means, you can use whatever you want. But here's the gist of using a compost or a topsoil that you do not want to use, that I would say that I would not prefer to use as seed starting material. And the reason why I say that you don't want to use compost or topsoil is because you don't want to bring any type of foreign material into your clean grow area, which i.e. may be aphids, white flies, any type of fungus, or even weeds. I mean, topsoil has weed seeds in it all over the place, and the last thing you want to do is bring that stuff into your clean area that you're starting seeds for your market garden, because you don't want to be fighting with weeds already. Plus, the weeds and stuff contaminate the area. You know, I mean, your transplants or your seedlings, you know, have to fight their way out of a seed pocket or a hole. As you can see with this kale seed, I don't know if you guys can tell, but look how small those kale seeds are. They're tiny. A lot of times I'll use a tweezer. I'm putting 2 or 3 in each pocket. That way I can thin out what I don't want. A lot of times I'll use a tweezer for these when I start these so I can get 1 in here. But for the cost of this, it's cost effective just to put 2 or 3 in there. So yeah, that's why you don't want to. You want to use a good seed starting mix like this because it's sterile. There's nothing in it usually but vermiculite, perlite, maybe some peat moss or anything like that, or tree bark, ground up tree bark or anything like that, which is sterile. So, and if you're worried about that, I've seen people put boiling water into this to try to sterilize it and everything. You know, the seed starting mix is enough for me. I just use it, and I don't boil it or I don't do anything special. I just take more sticks out. I just do that. But anyway, we've got our seeds in there, so we're going to want to lightly cover this. Rule of thumb is you want to cover your seeds with just enough topsoil or just enough perlite or vermiculite or whatever you're using to dress this. I think they say it's, 1.5 times the diameter of the seed. And you can see how small those seeds are. So we're not going to put a lot on here, but I still like to put some on it to cover it up there. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of just come through here and just lightly sprinkle over the top here. We're not going to get crazy. We're not going to pack it down or anything like that because you want to make sure that seed can be able to pop up through this soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly just run my hand over the top of this just like this. And you can see how it's filling in the voids of that seed starting tray. I'm not going to get crazy with it. I'm just going to just lighten it up here. And like I said, I'm not going to pack this down or anything. You'll see a lot of people pack these down and everything else. I try to give my transplants the best shot at germinating. And I seem to have pretty good germination on everything I grow. So we're just going to water that in. And then we're going to stick it on the rack here, put a humidity dome on it, and stick it on a heat mat and give it 3 or 4 days. And when this germinates, I'll pull the dome off of it, and then I will stick it here in this rack. And you can see I started this lettuce. This is Salanova from Johnny's. It's literally 1, 2. I've got 2 cells out of 128. So I've got 126 out of 128 germination on this Salanova. Phenomenal germination. Salanova is going to be a good product going into the farmer's market. You can use it for just as it is. I'm going to use it as a salad mix. So what we'll do is we'll either add like a tatsoi, a red mustard, or a spinach to this to make a salad mix. And this is our Tropicana, magenta, and Cherokee blend that we use, that we sell as a head lettuce. You could also use it as a salad mix if you want to. I have a lot of customers that will buy it and then just chop it up and use it as a salad mix. But we're using it as a head lettuce. Really good germination. And I start all this stuff the same way. Everything's on heat mats for a couple days. I put a dome on it, and then once it pops up, then I will bring it out here and I will set it underneath the lights. And then we'll discuss more about that as time goes on, how to keep these things from getting leggy, how I water them and stuff like that.